Hi, my name is Plaid Harrison with the FinTech Times, and we're here at Innovate Finance Global Summit. Would you like to introduce yourself for us, please?
Yes, hello, I'm Kat Cloud. I'm the UK policy lead at Plaid. Plaid is an open banking platform. We are global in that we're in the US, Canada, the UK, and Europe. We focus on democratizing consumer data to make it easier for consumers to power and make better decisions using their data in order to interact better with their financial situations.
Amazing. And how are you enjoying the event so far?
It's been very good. It's day two. It's been a very busy day two. It's been a very busy day one. But there's been a lot of good meetings, a lot of interesting people, and it's just nice actually to see everyone again and shake hands, hug, and just feel like we're actually feeling it's actually going back to normal.
Yeah, it feels nice to be sort of in the community again
and
actually seeing people. So, let's just get right down to it. In your opinion, what are some of the key drivers of innovation in the industry currently?
Yes, I think one of the biggest drivers, and obviously Plaid's bread and butter, is open banking and all things open banking. So a key part of that actually, and kind of the last little bit that I see that we need to really introduce to actually kind of check off open banking is done, let's move on to the next thing, is variable recurring payments. And that is essentially, it's the biggest competitor with direct debits. It's traditionally look at it as a card on file. And that, so you will give permission for Plaid to send instructions to your bank to make multiple payments at varying different amounts. You as a consumer will put the parameters that you want in place. So let's say you're only comfortable paying a maximum of £100, and anything over that you're not comfortable paying. So you will set those parameters as a consumer. You will have the right to change those if you want, and then we'll just follow suit and send those payments on. It sounds simple, but it's been a while in the making, and actually the way that it's developed, so we have variable recurring payments that has been mandated by the CMA 9 under the CMA Open Banking Order. And then we have the commercial variable recurring payments, which is kind of in a regulatory limbo. It's not exactly in the Open Banking Order, it's not in PSD2, it's just kind of floating in between. And that is the real area that we're actually very excited for as a company. And it's the first time we're going to actually be able to really compete in open banking and design a product that can actually genuinely change not just consumers' lives, but merchants' lives. So if you think about with it, it's once we actually get it to work, it's competing with direct debits. So direct debits use BACS as their payment rail. That takes 3 to 5 days to settle into your account. Whereas with variable recurring payments, we would use faster payments, which takes immediate settlement. So if you're a small business and you're constantly making payments, if you can actually know that at the end of the day, all that money is going to be settled into your account rather than in 3 or 5 days, you can make huge and well-informed decisions that actually will affect your business and potentially allow you to grow better, pay off any debts that you have. It allows you to really change the way you think of your business, and that is a huge power, especially given the last 2 years. The cost of living is rising. There's a lot of things that are happening in the economy, and commercial variable recurring payments can really help make that work in a better way for consumers and merchants.
Yeah, that all sounds amazing. And it's interesting you mentioned consumers so much there. How much do consumers and their demands and needs, affect how things go in the industry?
Massively. If you think about fintech as we know it today, would probably not be around without a consumer. So I'm a consumer, we're all consumers at the end of the day. And if you think about what we actually want and what we're using, the products that we're actually purchasing, banks are listening to that, fintechs are listening to that, everyone is listening to that. And they're starting to see, actually the FCA released some data a couple months ago about, so neobanks, so the Monzos, the Starlings of the world, they're not overtaking the big banks, but there's been a huge increase in the number of consumers that are opening accounts with those banks. And that's big, because consumers actually want to make better decisions about their finances. They want to understand them. Whereas traditionally it used to be okay, it's just there, my salary goes into my bank account, I don't even really think about it, I just spend it, works, great. That's not the same anymore. Consumers are more educated. Consumers want to access this information. They want to understand, okay, I spent £50 on coffee last month, maybe I shouldn't do that. So it's really actually, consumers are the ones actually driving this. And if they're taking up all these fintech products, if they're saying, how come you don't give me a budgeting tool within my banking mobile app, I'm gonna go with some other bank because they do that. Or I'm gonna use a fintech app because they do that for me. People actually want this information. So consumers have a huge voice and huge power and how they actually change the way the financial services are building and growing.
Amazing. And so I guess moving away from that, what are the major challenges facing the industry currently?
I think there's been a lot of fragmentation. So especially within open banking, there's been unfortunately a lot of fragmentation in just that the banks want one thing, fintechs want another thing. We are all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, but with different incentives. So I think the biggest thing and the biggest challenge we've seen within open banking is just that from a bank's perspective, it was just a regulatory initiative they had to deliver. They really had no choice. So they didn't really deliver it in the best way for consumers. Like, they delivered it works, and we're very happy that it works, but it's not in a way that consumer would actually be like, yeah, I want to continue using this like with my bank. We've seen it more, the fintechs have to take it and we have to go as much as we can, do as much as work as we can, like we want to, but we really have to be the driver in kind of making sure that it's delivered in the best way possible. But with the regulation, we can only go so far. So there are some limitations. One thing that we're really kind of coming up against is that really hits on variable recurring payments is payment transaction limits. From one bank to another, one bank might have a £100 transaction limit, whereas the next bank will have a £1,000 transaction limit. If you're trying to push payments all the time, you can't come up against these massive divides where how can we as a consumer get to the checkout and then be like, oh, actually I can't do this because my bank only lets me do £100 payments online using this service. Like, that's the type of fragmentation that we're really seeing. That's just within the UK. You then kind of expand it out to Europe, and country by country, you're seeing massive fragmentations. And it's more fragmentation in just the way they implemented the directive. So you have one country where the way they've understood it is completely different to the country right next door. So you're trying to expand kind of across Europe and provide that connectivity to Europeans, but even like people within the UK, businesses within the UK, around the world. You can't, because you'll get connected in one country and be like, okay, let's go to the next one. And then there'll be a whole set of new issues that you haven't come across before. So you're constantly problem solving because of this fragmentation. So it's really causing that kind of like extra barrier to entry and extra barrier for open banking to become an actual like widely used product.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and like a different perspective from everything else I've kind of heard so far today, which is fantastic. So obviously I think one of the major topics, I guess, of this conference has been the Khalifa review and how it was released a year ago, and I know open banking was quite a major part of that review. So in your opinion, how much progress do you think has been made over this past year, and are there any gaps that have still been yet to fill?
Yeah, I think the Khalifa review is a very good report and a very good review, and like Innovate Finance did an amazing job kind of help leading that review. But what it did is it kind of went for a massive approach. It took a lot of great ideas and said, let's do all of these. So I think that was probably the one limitation of it, is that it was almost too big for its britches, and that you can't achieve 5 million things, but you can achieve 5. And so we are seeing things like they just announced recently that they're doing the Center for Innovative Technology. Yes, they're doing the Center. It's a new initiative that they're launching. And like, again, very exciting news. We're very, like, that's a good step in the right direction, but that's taken a year for them to build. So I think that's the one thing where we're very much behind it. We're very supportive of it. We helped actually draft, because we are members of Innovate Finance, so we helped draft parts of it and we kind of gave them feedback. But the biggest limitation is that, like, if you look at it from a year ago, it was a good initiative. We're here a year later, not that much has been achieved. They're achieving things now, but comparing it to a year ago, there's still a lot more work to do, specifically on kind of like the regulatory legislative chapter. Other chapters like the talent, there's been a lot of work done on talent and how to encourage more diverse talent to come to the UK, to invest into the UK. So like, there's other chapters that they've done a really good job and they've accomplished things, but specifically looking at like the open banking, regulatory one, I think there's still more work to do.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really great to chat to you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.